This is Insight. Phone lines are open. Dial 384-2191.
Sure, we proved on the general store that the phone lines work, so we can do that for you if you want to jump in here at any time throughout the hour. The first Friday of the month of December. Now, normally I would talk with the mayor. Well, we don't have one of those yet, although we did have a candidate file here with the opening day come last Wednesday. But we would have City Administrator Steve Barg in here. He's not here either. So what are you doing here?
Well, the next step, person.
Bring the camera in, set it down, sit in the chair. Hey, you want to interview me? Sure, okay. Tom Loucks, Communications Director for the City of Marshfield. Normally, you were running the camera here and recording this for video purposes. What do you do with that video?
I do, and we use the video here from WDLB on our cable station, channel 989, throughout the week, and then we come back again and do the PD over, and then we swap them throughout the month, and we also put them online. It's on our YouTube channel. And it's also available streaming as well. We have a lot of places that you can watch this and get a lot of good information. All our programming is done that way. But I come in twice a month, hopefully to come back and do county board here and the sheriff like I started, but trying to get a volunteer to help me do that.
So this is programming that you do in order to, this is a city entity, right? You're under the city.
Correct. I am under the city. It is no longer contracted. Basically have two positions. I run the public access stations as well as communications director for the city.
That's a handful. They've talked a lot about that and tried to say that we need to get communications out, and we've talked about it on this program. That's easier said than done in today's world. It's hard, it sounds counterintuitive. It's harder to get to people with more ways to get to them than it was when there was only one.
It is. I started out newspapers, just like you, Jeff, you're in radio, and now how many outlets, platforms are there? There's
countless.
There's countless, and we're trying to do as many as we can. Although, right now I'm alone in the department, and we'll hopefully hire a communications specialist here in January to help out. But, you have Facebook. We're going to get Instagram here shortly. We have all that streaming opportunities, the website. We're going to have an app coming up as well that people can go right on, download the app on their smartphone, and look for information that way.
Talking with Tom Loucks, Communication Director of the City of Marshfield. If you're curious about how this works, and I'm not getting to it, I guess we kind of have insider information on how each other works, so I got to tailor my questions to people who wouldn't understand what... I'm not starting ahead of people here with my questions, because I am a part of this as well. Tom in here every month, a couple times, to video the talk that we do on Fridays with members of governmental agencies, including the sheriff, the PD, and such, mostly interested in city stuff. But you mentioned that there are channels on the charter, well, here I went again. I knew I was going to say that at some point in time. The Spectrum digital tier of channels up in the 900s. Explain that situation. There's other channels. There's Abbotsford. As I look through my guide, I see different, and some of them aren't used, but they do allocate space for that, and they do pay the city in order to be the cable provider. I don't want to use the K word here, but it sounds like there's they do help provide a space for you to inform the city and all the communities that they do business with. How does that work?
Sure, I'll explain it and help everyone understand it a bit. It is a little bit of a confusion at times. Let's talk about the public access stations. We have three. Lucky enough to have three. A lot of communities don't. Channel 989, 990, 991. 989 is the public access channel, so you'll be able to find stuff that's not just city, but stuff within the public with producers out there that like to do work and come in and produce their own program. They can do pretty much anything they feel that they would like to, freedom of speech, and learn. We provide training for them. We have a full studio, you name it. So pretty neat opportunity to go there. 989 is that channel. 990 is our informational channel right now. It was an educational channel. Right now we're using it as a slide bulletin board of community events as well as stuff around the world.
Explain
and our
that.
schedule.
Explain that change, 990. What was it and what is it?
Yeah, 990 was originally an educational channel. It actually really, the channels have changed over the years from way back to having Channel 10, Channel 3, Channel 4. Now we're up in, well, we all call it cyberspace, but up into the 900s is where we land. And that was an educational channel. It was at one time run by the school system back in the 80s, and pretty neat stuff. That's what they used the channel for. But right now they gave the channel back to the city, and that was well before my time. That was under a previous coordinator. And I decided at this point, it's hard to fill all that. 3 stations, 24/7, and I felt that an informational channel would be useful to put information on there like announcements that are happening around town, Thanksgiving dinner, and then also put some world announcements on there. We could do a lot of things, meeting announcements, you name it. 990, government channel. We tried a few different things with that, but ended up going back to keeping it as a government channel. That means putting not just city, but Marathon County Board, since we're part of Marathon. So we get that from the cable station, access station up in Wausau. They provide that to us. We run their board meeting, generally their executive board meeting, and then Wood County Board. We run that. We get that from the Wisconsin Rapids station, as well as MSTC Board. We get that, and all the city meetings are on there. So it revolves, and also an informational bulletin program on that in between programming.
How do you acquire all of that? I mean, you talked about some of it you would have to do in the city of Marshfield, but Marathon County, Wisconsin Rapids, they send stuff to you?
Yep. We have several ways of getting information over to us, which I'd say videos, and we share. We actually have a state sharing program similar to Associated Press, similar to kind of how you guys do that here with AP. We have 51 stations that are around the state that are part of Wisconsin community media, and we share programming, so there might be some regional interest. I just had a deer hunting show that was just produced by somebody in Trempealeau County, and we alert people. So it's pretty neat to be able to share, and we're all funded somewhat the same here in Wisconsin. I know you asked me this question, how does this happen? Well, we are funded by a name called cable franchise fees, and that is only for cable television. It has nothing to do with the internet through your cable provider. It has nothing to do with phone. It is only cable TV. They do separate that on the bill, and if you look at your bill, it'll say franchise on there, and it's a city franchise. So if you live in the city limits, you'll pay 4% of the cable fee area. So if you're paying $80, $90, it would be 4%, around $2, $3, maybe $4 per month. And that goes to the city, and the city turns around and provides that to the communications department. And that's how we're funded. We're not funded by general tax levy at all. The entire department right now is totally funded by cable franchise fees.
I had no idea I was paying for that. I thought they were paying for that.
No, and years ago there used to be a PEG fee in the state of Wisconsin. It was eliminated in 2008. Be very helpful to have that. But, franchise fees, again, the city does not have to use it they could use it for what they wanted, but generally most cities that do collect it provide a return to the cable people that do purchase cable, and they get local information that way.
I thought it was just out of the kindness of their heart. They were giving part of their profits to you in order to run a local channel, and here I am realizing that it's part of my bill.
It's part of your bill. It used to be 5%. In 2019, 0.5% was taken away. and then again in 2020, another half. The state now has made whole on that. The state provides 1% of the fee that it was now. So we do get 1% from the state, and that's good through here 2023, and that has to be revisited again every 2 years.
Talking with Tom Loucks, Communication Director for the City of Marshfield, here on today's Insight program, explaining what he does and how all that breaks down in what we're doing here and what you see here on the Insight program and why. Grab those headphones there. Let's go to the phone. Good morning. You're on the Insight program.
Yes, good morning. I'm not real familiar with the internet, but right now I've got YouTube with Marshfield, Wisconsin, and there's all kinds of Marshfield stuff on there, from the clinic to the police to whatever. But how would I find that access channel you're talking about?
Does that stream live on internet, or is it just that you can pick programs?
So on YouTube, you can pick the programs, and you would want to search Marshfield Broadcasting, and our call letters Marshfield Broadcasting. Our call letters are MFLD TV, and it should come up onto that. Those are on-demand programs that I load up, and you'll be able to find channel 989 and then channel 991, and I did separate those.
Oh, wow, that sounds kind of challenging for me.
If you have, I don't know if you don't have cable, we do stream, and our website, mfldtv.org, and there's another on-demand site there. Same thing.
Because I don't have city cable. I'm just going, with the internet here.
Okay.
And I'm at YouTube, but I guess I'll go leave the Marshfield, Wisconsin site and go to what you described then, huh?
Yes, the mfldtv.org has all our channels. They do stream there.
Okay.
Yep, great place to go.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Yes, a lot of this, that what is happening in the city is brought to you or available to you and that's what we're here talking about today. How do you find that? Maybe you didn't know it was even out there. But all these meetings and things, and I'm talking with Tom Loucks, Communications Director, about why they do this, how they do this, how this is afforded, and how we got into this. You backed up talking about what changed. It used to be called PEG channels. What's the difference between that and what we're doing now?
It's still considered a PEG channel, public education government channel. That is really the name that everyone gives. A lot of the stations all went to calling themselves community media stations. In the past, probably 8 to 10 years ago, and they're an area that used for training, for learning, as well as broadcasting. So PEG, it's always going to be there and called that, but new names, new initiatives, new ways to do things. A lot of the cities here have them, and right here in our central Wisconsin, Rapids, Wausau, and Point all have PEG stations.
And they're afforded by the cable company. Is that law that they provide these? In our case, it's Spectrum, but there's other cable companies around. Is that something that they have to do?
It is. It is a law if the city requested it at a point in time. Now, can you get a new one now if you're like a new city or you didn't have it? At this point, no. It's in the law. The law has been rewritten so many times. But if you have it, you get it. You do not want to lose one. If you give it up, you will never get it again. So there's some areas in there. You do have to pay for some things on the channels, like when we had to move some of the equipment that was down here next to us in a former building over where the old station was. We had to move that over to City Hall, and we had to pay for that move.
Now, just in my time here, predecessor to Tom, there used to be what was MCTV, and that was in a building on the corner here on the Marathon County side on Central and McMillan. The city then took that back and put the equipment in what was City Hall Plaza on Central Avenue, the high-rise there. And that's where the studios then were located, in part because the majority of the programming came from the council chambers, which was right next door. And then we'll get to this in a moment, because they could run the lines out in the parade and that business. We'll talk about that here, because I had some questions asked of me about that, and I only answered what I thought I knew. And then now the studio for this MFLD TV, as it's called now, is in the City Hall. So when the City Hall moved, you had to move all the equipment along with it in order to stay right next to the council, so that you have cameras that are permanently in there installed, or do you have to go in and camera operate yet, or is it all automatic?
It is all automatic. When they moved over to the new City Hall from old City Hall, that was installed a bit before I started, and it's a one-man job now. They
So
knew
you got
that
a
they
joystick back there, and you just kind of get the channel to point the cameras and focus and all that stuff?
Yes, that's what I get to do. So we have about 6 cameras in there, 2 now for using if we want to use Zoom, because Zoom is now the popular thing, so we have that as well, and 4 other cameras. So you can move around. I'm going to be honest, it's not as good as it originally was, because, physical person there you could talk to a bit quicker. There's a lot of things for one person to do. As you know, Jeff, you have 100,000 buttons in front of you here, and it's happening live. What do you do if you hit the wrong button?
Oh, it happens every hour. Every hour. I'm playing a song here on this control board every hour, but there's now a place over there where you've got 6 cameras, one guy running all 6 and showing these meetings on a streaming situation live, that are also being recorded so that other people can consume them afterward.
Yeah, we're putting it out in several areas live. We're actually putting it out on the cable channel 991, the meetings, and then we're streaming it to YouTube live, and then we're streaming it out to Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. So if you have those sticks, they call them over-the-top, OTT, we have a channel there that you can watch all that. You can also watch it on demand there as well. And all you have to do is download that app on your TV. It's called Marshfield Broadcasting. Type it up. You'll find it. Click it. There it is. And it's there until you would ever delete the app.
All 3 channels, or just the one?
No, all 3 channels are streaming right now. And exactly what's on cable is on that. Maybe a delay of about a minute, because cable's quicker.
Why does Marshfield have 3? Does everybody, or is there other cities only have 1?
Some cities have 1 channel, some have 2 channels, and some have 3. It was something that was grandfathered a long time ago. This had asked for 3 channels. I would think it was when we had a cable commission. The commission wanted 3 channels. And like I said before, if you do give a channel up, you'll never get it back. So right now I wouldn't want to give a channel up, because, things change, things come back, things go away, and, there are a lot of people that are watching cable television yet in our community, more than you think. And a lot of people are watching these channels, again, more than you think. They just, if it's not on, that's when the call will come.
Talking with Tom Loucks, he's communications director for the city of Marshfield, about the video that they take, for instance, of this program. He's usually here at least a couple times a month in the studio, showing our fine palatial studio here, and that is a situation where trying to acquire programming that is, I'm talking generally when he comes here with public officials, most often city, for instance, the mayor one week, the PD the next week, but he'll also come for county board and also the sheriff, because that is, again, of public interest to people in the city, and that's kind of your intent, right, is getting programming that's city-oriented for these channels. And when we're talking about the 3 channels that we have on Spectrum and how he's using them, and now I find out that they're also streamed to other avenues, it's getting wider and wider. It sounds odd, because the city gets your operational budget from cable, but you have to put it out there. And we talked about when we opened the program, there's so many ways now people can consume things that you'd want to get it out there to every possible receiver that you can, including OTTs. over the top, which means over and above what your television comes with, is basically what it means. Is that how you understand it?
It is. One nice thing about those programs that are on over the top YouTube, we produce everything in HD, high definition. It's been that way for quite some time. Well, our cable channel is only standard definition, the old box TV, and that's why it's not as sharp as it really should be. But that's what they've given us, and that's all we can get. All of us in the state, around the country, have asked for HD capabilities. We haven't received that yet. Maybe someday we will. But what's nice is what I'm saying is if you want to watch us in HD and you have those platforms, then do that because they're produced that way.
So there are a lot of things that you have on these channels. It's morphed a little bit over the years as we've been talking with Tom here on what they carry and what channels are used for what type of things. Do you do other things, school board and other governmental type meetings that aren't necessarily coming through the city specifically?
Yeah, we do. When I say we, myself right now and local producers that I have found around town to help me out that enjoy doing video, do a lot of local programming that isn't anything to do with city government. That's where 989 comes in. And some of it may be some of the same guests that you have, El Truza Club you had. I had as well. And they came in the studio. We have a host that's usually a volunteer. Don Nystrom was our host. And he interviewed the three ladies and had that on. We just did one with Peggy Sue on a book author. Again, that's not city government, but that's public access. Part of what I have to do, it's a service we provide, and I help. But what I try to do is get the producers to do that program by learning. It works out really good. Another person and does some work here. Brian Thomas is learning how to do video work as well, and more people we can get that want to volunteer helps the people that maybe not be able to get out, watch these programming. We have over 13 or 14 local church programs, and those are provided to us as well, and we run those 2 times a week, and really important. People watch that all the time, and they're grateful for...
How many?
13 or 14 at this point right now.
It's a religious channel. What you're running there?
Yeah,
between these boring meetings, we've got Jesus coming to us.
We
here.
have a lot, and that's on the 989 channel. I don't put them on the 991 unless there was a technical issue that our channel went down or something that we had to use that channel. You were talking about the parade. In the past, that used to have to be on 991 because they would run cables all the way up to the basement and all that work.
Well, now, back up here. But this is a subject that I want people to, as you're listening to the program here, I want you to understand that the television studio for the city government channels was in the basement of the City Hall Plaza across from Pick and Save. So you could do that. You could run cables up the stairs and out to the front, and you'd set up a platform for cameras, and you would do the parade as it came by right in front of the building. You're not in that building anymore. And people call, well, how come they don't? I said, because you can't run cables a block away. I mean, it's just cost prohibitive, and it's technically just a pain to get that from that far away. Over to there, and can't you do it remotely? And because everybody's got a phone in their pocket that's not hooked to anything, they think that everything is just able to be. Alexa can do everything in the world. It's not always that simple. There has to be people that can wire this to make that happen. And so I said to people, well, you can't do it from that far away anymore, and it's not really a pegged channel under what we used to do. Now, yes, they do provide programming, but that was programming provided to you. All the churches, they give you the disc or give you the file on a stick and a digital file and say, here's the program. Those are churches that have cameras within them and recording equipment, and they do their own program and then provide it to you for people who can't make it to the service. So it's not you going out and doing it like in the case of the parade. People, equipment, it's just, well, how did they do it? Well, because things were different then. That's all I can tell you. I don't know how would you describe it when people tell you that, why don't you do that anymore?
Yeah, let me explain a little bit of how that worked. With MCTV, that was a contracted deal. They had to do X amount of programming. No matter what, their contract, I believe, had to do so much programming, no matter what kind of programming it was. It could be government, it could be public access. So they did that, and they provided most of the programming with their staff. They did accept programming, but their main focus was to really do it with their staff, which was under that contract, and they weren't paid by the city, they were paid by the contractor, which first was, it was Dan Kummer VidCom, and then another company had taken over, I believe Tribe Media, for a few years, and then it now came back under the city, and that's how that worked. And public access was meant, it's always been meant as a place for people to bring programming, to learn how to do programming. That's what it's about. It's about people engaging in their community and learning opportunities. And, the world has changed. We try to do what we can. Again, I'm one person, so now there's no way you're going to be able to do all that. My goal is to get more people out in the community to provide us programming, because there's no reason to be duplicative. If somebody is already taping something, then please share it with me if you're willing, because it's the people that are not on Facebook, that are not on YouTube, they miss out. And there's a lot of people that don't use those platforms, more than we ever would think. And I think it's important that we don't leave them out. But let me talk about City Hall, and I'll throw a little wrench into this here for you, is we are actually over at Old City Hall now again. I'm up on the 5th floor, and I rent that, yes.
I thought isn't your stuff over at the new city?
Part of it is in the server room, because you can have your stuff and be remote everywhere, as technology. I had an office over at City Hall for a while as my communications director area, but then we always moved the old studio to the old City Hall before we sold City Hall, and we were next to HEFCO. And we needed more room. We had a lot of stuff. Jeff, you were over there many times. How much stuff they had over at the building across the street, and we moved to the 5th floor. Got a great deal. We don't pay any utilities, and it worked out wonderful. I was able to put a studio up there. I constructed the studio myself on Saturdays and put all the lighting in there, and now we have a nice space up there because we have a lease that was signed back in 2019 with ourselves, I believe, and then it was transferred to the new owners through 2024. And that way we can allow the public to come in and learn and train on the equipment. And that's really important. And we have several producers that are doing that now, coming in and doing programming, and then they do all the editing, or they take it home and edit. We have cameras, we have it all. What a resume builder for you if you're in high school, you're in middle school. That's how I started, but I didn't start at a PEG station. I started at a newspaper, had a chance to have a mentor there. So, anybody that's listening that has kids or anything like that, or wants to learn, or is retired and wants to learn, call me, 486-2070. That's my direct line, and we're here to train. And the more programming we can get on the air, and we're not looking for a Pulitzer. This is a learning opportunity. So we're not looking for it's content, and that's what's important. So yes, we're over on the 5th floor, but a lot of our equipment, our main brain of the whole station, is over at City Hall. the new City Hall.
How do you, talking with Tom Loucks, Communications Director here for the city, we've been talking mostly about the video portion of this. That is the channels that you see on 989, and as he explained to you, you don't have to have cable. You can stream them on what we call OTT, over the top, Roku, Fire Stick, if you have those kind of things where you can get programming via the internet on your television. They're available there. They're available on the internet at YouTube and their own mfldtv.org site where videos can be watched as well. Trying to make as many ways for you, as easy for you to consume this as possible. That's why when I talk to city officials here on the radio, constantly talking about how are we going to get the information out, devoted time even in the council meeting to talking about how can we get information out. And this is only one avenue of information that we've been talking about here in the first half of the program. The rest of his duties and the other things that are going on here as far as press releases and information gathering from all the departments and then putting that out as one voice, which was the intent in the beginning to do this, rather than each department either putting out their own press releases or in some cases not putting out any because they didn't know how or which channels to do that or avenues to use, was why the communications director was originally put together for the city. But we're just talking here about this one avenue, I suppose, because it is, I would think, the most high profile. I mean, we can talk about inner city business here and about how you put out press releases, and I'm not that interested in that, honestly. But the rest of this stuff on how you get this done and the fact that people can participate, I think got lost a little bit over the years in the fact that programming can be done. You'll help them learn the equipment, and then they're able to take things out. And I think of like the Silver Laces and the skating programs and games. And how much sports do you do, and where do you acquire some of that from?
Yeah, you're right, Jeff. This is a learning opportunity. That's what it was meant to be. That's why they call them now community media centers. Several of them are even in libraries now. Libraries have gone back to that. Rapids actually had it in their library back in the 80s. It's kind of coming back to that now. But, I mean, to answer your question, programming can be any kind of programming. We cannot get in and say no to the program. It's freedom of speech. It's part of what it is. It can't, have libel or malicious or, copyright violations. But the program that is submitted to us, that's on them. It's not on us. It's a disclaimer that programming that's submitted is submitted. So we do have to run it, unless it has, some, major problems like sound and audio. Then we can say no. But generally, that's what it's about. We're the Facebook. I don't like to say but we were the Facebook of back then. That's what this was before Facebook and all that existed. Now we have evolved a lot from the days of running all those cords that you talk about. Now it's all wireless, you name it. It really hasn't become any easier, Actually, it could become harder with this technology, because you got to be an IT guy at the same time. As you know, you got to fix something if it's broke, and you're the guy that's doing it. But how do you do with this all? Well, us news people, and I'm going to leave you into it here, put you into it as well, Jeff. We have a lot of hats, and that's just part of the game as a journalist or mass communications. That's what I've done. You wear a lot of hats, and you're running, and you're not working an 8-hour day. It's never going to be in the media industry. News doesn't stop, runs 24/7. I don't know if you don't like to work a lot, this wouldn't be for you. And that's what media is. We work 24/7. Gene Delisio, he's on the radio again tonight, and he's here at 5 in the morning. So I do the same thing. So that's how it's happening right now. You have to live it and breathe it.
How do you and we get back to what just occurred to me when you were talking about now your office and your studios in the 5th floor Two things. One, who owns that building? I mean, it was the city, and that's where you were originally in the basement. Now you went over to City Hall, and now you're back with a lease agreement from the owner?
Correct. All those leases that were part of the city transferred over, and that's how that works. So we already had a lease, I believe, before we sold the building, and that just transferred
meaning
over.
the channel?
The city itself. And that had to go through the council. So back in 2019, the council and former Mayor McManus asked to sign a lease, and I believe that lease was 5 years. To go over there from the old studios here over on McMillan. So that's what we did, and it was a way to save money, so we could bring it in-house. Because otherwise, if you had both, it'd be pretty tough to bring that in-house, to do everything, do the communications as well as the public access. Now, they are two different jobs. They really are. But, they have some similarities into it, broadcasting on TV and broadcasting on radio, writing press releases. It is news gathering and a way of providing information out to the public. So that's why I do both.
How do you get it from the 5th floor over to the servers at the City Hall?
What's neat about that is we were lucky to have our fiber connection to the two buildings easily. So we're running on fiber, and we're able to do that at the same speeds as if you were in the building. So underneath the street, up to that building, we're connected, and much easier. Now, a lot of buildings that are city-owned, if not most of them, are all connected that way. The fire department is connected to us. The library's connected to us. Wastewater, all of them run on fiber, so it's like you're right there. So our IT department has made that happen, and with the help of then Marshfield Utilities helping run those lines.
So what he's talking about is fiber optic, which is not a piece of thread.
No.
Not fiber. It's not polyester. We're talking about fiber optic cable here, which is a conduit. It's not the internet. It's the way of getting the internet there and getting into the technical portion of this. If you're not familiar with it, it's just like it's the pipe. It's not the water, it's the pipe. And that's how we get fiber optic from one to another. So the city has the best in communications that's available to the Marshfield utilities, and that is possible as well. So I didn't get you off the hook for the parade then.
No, you didn't. Now, we did the parade. Great time. Had 5 volunteers. I believe I don't want to miss anybody.
Because now, just for a moment here, they don't have the staff, okay? So say he has to go get people who say, well, you want to come down and stand in the cold with the camera? Not so much, but okay, I'll do it. So he found people to do that. So when you ask why things happen, they don't just happen because we want it to. There's got to be people who will show up and help you to do all that thing, unpaid volunteers.
Yes, definitely. They're all unpaid. I appreciate them so much. Without them, we wouldn't exist, and we need them. They provide us the programming that everybody's watching. Otherwise, I probably would definitely need my bed down there, Jeff, because I wouldn't be able to keep it going without those programs from those individuals, and that's what it's about. And I like it that way because it brings engagement, it brings involvement. People get involved, and then they can also get involved in our city government. Now, it's a little bit different. They're not operating the cameras like in the past. We used to have camera operators in the basement, although those were paid a little bit differently because that was a government function. Although they weren't staff, but they were still paid like freelancers. But we don't do that with our city meetings. That's done by myself or the communications specialist. And at this point right now, I've been doing it, and I enjoy it. I've always enjoy doing that kind of work, and you get to learn a lot about what city government's about by listening to everybody back in that little control room that we have at New City Hall. So, yeah, we're able to work remotely. Actually, when I'm we are doing this program with our city administrator or PD, I'm in there working over there. I don't even, a lot of times don't operate the camera. We've tried different cameras that I could do remotely, but this one's fixed. So, I'm trying a lot of new things, trying to really, improve what we do. But back to that parade, Jeff, it was a lot of fun. It was cold. I had 2 hosts that came out and did those. So if you missed the parade, we run it often. It's on demand, like I mentioned before, YouTube, OTT. You can watch it when it's streaming. Want to know where our schedule is? Go to 990 and you can see it scrolling there. If you don't have that, you can go online to mfldtv.org and click on there's a tab called Schedule. You can get it to a city website too, because that's, I'm the webmaster of the city website, ci.marshfield.wi.us, which is a whole nother part of my job.
Didn't even touch that yet.
No. But, and I do that. And like in my newsletter, I do that, Your City at Work. Just sent one out yesterday. I work with all the department heads. I'm a department head myself, so that helps. I'm right in the thick of it. So that's a whole nother piece, but guess what? The channel gets that content too. So that's what's really the neat part of it. It's not left out.
Well, we'll leave that part alone here. One last thing. Talking with Tom Loucks, Communications Director. Now, has been filmed. Was it shown live?
Our plan was to do it live. Unfortunately, technology didn't work.
Yeah.
It failed us. And it's still not working today to do that. It's hard to stream to some of these bigger streaming companies like Facebook and YouTube, because things change often with them. And if your machine doesn't talk to them the way it's supposed to, and you would know, you just get spin, and that's what happened. Unfortunately, I could not get on, and there's nothing I could do, although we always have backup in the cameras, so if that does happen, we can do it in post. And
meaning afterward, it can be produced after the programming is over and after the parade is done. So you took it back and put it together, and how can we see it now? Yeah,
you can see it now running throughout the week. Plunk it in the schedule at 9:89 different times. On demand, YouTube. Go to Marshfield Broadcasting. You can just Google that. You'll find our YouTube channel, MFLD 989. Our call letters, just like WDLB. They have call letters. We have call letters. Type that up, and you'll find 2 different channels, but you want to go to the 989. That's where it is on YouTube. And like you say, if you have those OTT platforms, you can do it there. Or you can just go to mfldtv.org or .com. I have both, but .org, and you can watch it there as well. You can click on it and watch it at any time you want.
You can join us here talking with Tom Loucks, Communications Director for the City of Marshfield. All the things that go on, trying to get it into your realm so that you can consume it here. We've been talking about the video portion of this most of the show thus far. We'll talk about some of the other things that are going on as well.
There's been so much back and forth about COVID-19, a lot of my patients don't know what to believe. So, as a Wisconsin emergency medicine physician, I give them the facts. Unlike COVID-19, the vaccines show no evidence of serious long-term side effects. Getting vaccinated is safe and important. And now that there's an FDA-approved vaccine, there's really no reason to wait. Ask your family doctor what they think.
Sometimes it feels like everyone has an opinion on the COVID-19 vaccines. That's why, as a Wisconsin doctor, I tell patients what I've seen for myself. I'll never forget sitting next to a dying patient while her family stood outside at the window, holding signs to say goodbye. Don't let that be you. Getting vaccinated is safe, and now that there's an FDA-approved COVID-19 vaccine, please don't wait. Ask your family doctor what they think.
December. Normally we would have the mayor on. We are in the process of going to have one of those elected here coming up in spring. City Administrator Steve Barg not with us today, so we picked someone else from around the city, and it just happened to be the guy who came in, set the camera down, said, "I'll sit down and talk." I said, "You're on." Tom Loucks, Communications Director for the City of Marshfield, and we've just been talking about what you see here and how you can consume it. mfldtv.org. mfldtv.org is his site where you can go on and look at the videos that they have for you. But there's so much more than that. As I said, that he is a department head, and all the department heads funnel through you, and you put out a newsletter, once a month?
Once a week is my goal.
Once a week? Holy
Once a week.
Cow.
I missed 2. Right now I'm shorthanded. I usually have a communication specialist full time. That individual left for another city to do my kind of job I do. So I wish him luck there. But yes, I do this newsletter called Your City at Work. And just put one out last night. And if you wanna get it, all you have to do is subscribe. And how do you subscribe? You go to the city's website, and you can go to our department, communications, and right there it is. You can subscribe, and you get it sent right into your email.
And it's links to all the things that are going on from the departments, or what do you? Well, you had everything from brush and leaf pickup to anything that's happening in the city that might be of interest to citizens.
Exactly. I'm putting everything together. Instead of you have to go out to multiple places, every Facebook page, it's all we're doing is putting it in one piece, easier for you to find and get that information. So I collaborate a lot with all the department heads. We have meetings every other week or every week. They call me, get this out. Write this news release. I do that and then get it out on all the platforms. And Your City at Work is one of those platforms. And that's one of the things that they really wanted to do back in 2019. And I said, you bet. I write city newsletters, blogs. I did that for the mayor in Wisconsin Rapids and loved it. And said, I have a chance to do that here. And I did. I've been doing that ever since, and I'd like to. My goal here, when we get a specialist, is to focus more myself on those city communication platforms. More of it, more communications out, the better. I think it is for our residents.
Well, just putting the puzzle piece together of programming the TV. I mean, you've got different people bringing you different programs from churches to other programs. Still doing the polka?
Yeah, we have 2 polka programs on. I believe we have it on 6 times throughout the week, and we get them new all the time. So, we have producers out there doing that now. So,
and that's an example of people who go to the dances, do the videoing, and then come back, edit it into a program, and hand it to you and say, "Here, we're ready to go," because you don't have time.
No, a lot of people do think we produce all that programming, and that would be we couldn't. It would be impossible to be at church. 12 or 13, whatever I said, churches and a lot of them are at 10 o'clock. Boy, that'd be magical. I wish I could, but. Yeah, the Asplins, I still do the polka. They edit it. They don't go out, but they edit from another person. We work with that videographer, and works wonderful. And the polka is pretty popular all the time, and we wouldn't want to lose that.
Now, when you have people out there bringing things to you, you can also teach them how to do the camera part. We talked about earlier in the program here, but there are things that, like ribbon cuttings and every little thing that goes on around the city, you don't have time to go there and do those kind of things. But if people do it on their camera phone, is that a quality enough that you can use it and extract it, or do they have to figure out how to do that?
No, you can. These phones are amazing today. Some of them are better than the cameras that we have. The new iPhones, even the Androids, they do some amazing work. They have editors built in them. I've been using a cell phone on a lot of things, and you wouldn't even know. At times, I think it's better. Those cameras are so sharp. It's the technology, you can't compete to it. But yes, someone could use their phone. I provide training on a phone all the time, and they can actually use a phone, not per se a phone that calls out, but we save phones that we've had that are good video cameras, and you can use those. I have all the cords, like Jeff and I know what, the XLR and the RCA. Well, I have all those special adapters so you can use the good microphones. Usually the hardest part is having good audio, because if you have good video but really bad audio, it's no good. So you got to do two things. You got to be that engineer. But yes, I'm here to provide that training, and we have all the gear. We have a lot of gear, and I'm the guy that would set time aside and provide that training. Maybe even go out with you and help you out. Because the more we can get out, the better.
And as in the parade situation, you can contact him and help him when he needs certain things that he can assign you to that need to be covered. He knows those, but doesn't have the people to get there to them. So if you want to get into that kind of thing, you can do that. And who knows what it could lead to. Set up your own channel. I mean, there's podcasting and audio now. You can do the same basic thing with video on YouTube channels. You can have your own and do those kind of things. So that's something that you can do as well. He brought me a list of things here, but it's mostly just city business kind of things that you put into your newsletter. Mayor and alderperson info is in the newsletter here, where if you want to run for office, you can contact Deb Hall at the city clerk and find out the nomination papers there to take out and what it takes to run for those offices and to be a part of that. Pool passes at Vandahay Waters, we mentioned that on the air. That is available as well. Brame Park management, what is this about?
Yeah, if anyone was watching our council meeting maybe a few months ago, our city forester was talking about Brame Park and what we need to do to make sure that park is kept up well. And they're going to have to be removing some trees here coming up, and I will be getting more notice out to you and the rest of the media about that. So it has to do with that emerald ash borer, and we want to make sure that we're controlling that so there's no spread. And Brame Park has those in there, and we want to make sure people are safe when they go around there and maybe walk. So we're going to be getting information out when they plan to harvest some of that area. Those trees will be harvested and used probably for some kind of purpose of building material. So it's not going to be just wasted.
I talked with the city forester on this program. It must have been almost a year ago already, and he told me that was coming down the line. And I talked with the people at the Historical Society, and I said, take your pictures now, because once they start taking trees out of there, it won't look as thick as it is right now. And there's a lot of ash in that little standing at Brame Park. And so that's going to look a whole lot different once they start removing a lot of that. There's construction up by the clinic that I noticed the street has been closed off there for over a month.
Yeah, now they're going to be moving this big crane to lift that new structure over the road that they're building. It'll be another structure, and they have to block that road, which is Oak, which is a pretty busy road, for the next 5 weeks, starting actually today. So you won't be able to drive through there, so they can maneuver that large crane and leave it there. And they'll maintain the road for emergency vehicles. So they, if an emergency needs to get through that, they will be doing that. We won't be doing that as a city, but we want to let people know that is now supposed to be, I believe it's on time, is blocked off now.
That parade information, closing of the streets for parades, all that stuff comes through his office. He's the communications director for the city of Marshfield. Tom Loucks, my guest here today on the program, and we only scratch part of the surface here of what's going on, talking about his duties and how you can participate and what you see on the TV channels and how the video can be consumed. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it, too.
Sure. Here on today's Insight program on WDLB, coming to you on Channel 989 or in their other platforms, as we've been talking about through the program here. I'm Jeff Cannon.